One thing I wanted to bring up with you is John Brennan. Now, he was recently on Real Time. I want you to hear what he had to say to Bill Maher.
We are in a crisis. There needs to be some reckoning in the Republican Party that we can't allow this to go on. He's dividing Americans, and so I'm really concerned that as he continues to play to his base, he's further dividing us. And I'm really concerned about whether this could spill over into the streets. They need to act before there's a real disaster.
So, Dan, I mean, John Brennan, you'd think that after what happened last week or so, when even James Clapper was saying, you know, I'm not a big fan of the president, but John Brennan's got a little far with this treason talk, you think he might go in a corner for a while and think about it. Instead, he's out there doubling down.
You know, Ed, what really bothers me about that, I have to tell you, I think that sound there is even worse than his treason talk. Spill into the streets? Are you serious? This is a constitutional republic, okay? We do our damage in the voting booth. We don't spill it into the streets and start attacking our neighbors. This is not a violent country. We don't do that. Why would you even say something like that? And keep in mind, when this guy talks about division, Ed, we're talking about the same guy who was the puppet master for this entire spying scandal on the Trump team.
Right.
He exchanged information with foreign intelligence and then briefed Capitol Hill on some of that information, incentivizing the FBI to go after the Trump team.
So
this
Dan,
guy's the worst of the worst.
Dan, let me connect a few dots and bring you back to where we started with Sessions, and that is if you were advising the president, if you get rid of Sessions, Rod Rosenstein then becomes the acting attorney general. He, of course, has played a central role in all of this. What would you be advising the president to do?
Well, listen, it's some hard advice here, but this investigation's not going to stop. They're going to go after the president. They're going to go after his family. They are not investigating collusion. They are investigating you. It is time to fire Rosenstein. I think Sessions, after the midterms, it may be time to move on as well, with all due respect to the man. He's an honorable man. It's also time to strongly consider firing Bob Mueller. The special counsel investigation won't go anywhere, but let's get someone in there who can legitimately look at Russian collusion, which we know didn't happen, and put this thing to bed. I know these are hard choices, but you have to understand, if you're thinking for a minute this investigation is ever going to be fair or it's ever going to stop, you are wrong.
And how
the
about
next targets are going to get worse.
How about declassifying those documents? We're going to have you back to talk about that because the president could do that. Declassify the documents that they refused to hand over to Congress.
Yeah, big decisions ahead. Dan Bongino this morning calling for Bob Mueller to be fired. We're going to get a lot of reaction from people later this morning on the program. You can bet on that. Dan Bongino, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Dan.